Countryline Lane, I'm Larry Marble. It's time for Down on the Farm, the Labor Day edition of our program. I'm going to take today off to be with my wife, Claire. Now, I hope you get to also enjoy this edition of Texas Farm Bureau Roundup.
This is Farm Bureau Roundup, featuring farm and ranch news from the Panhandle to the Rio Grande Valley and from West to East Texas. Farm Bureau Roundup gives you a comprehensive look at the stories of Texas agriculture. Farm Bureau Roundup is brought to you by this station and the Texas Farm Bureau. Now, from the Texas Farm Bureau Network, here's your host, Tom Nicoletti.
Hello and welcome to Farm Bureau Roundup on this Labor Day weekend. The calendar may read September, but the hot August and July Texas temperatures are still prevailing across the state. In the heat, Central Texas farmers are running out of storage for their very good corn crop. We'll have a report on what action they are taking. Here's more now from our team of reporters.
Texas Panhandle farmers have had a big fight with weeds this season. I'm James Hunt in Amarillo, and I'll have a report on avoiding runaway weed problems.
Well, the state tree of Texas is the pecan. We're going to talk a little bit about the expected pecan crop and how we can make it mature. Please join me, John Begno, as we discuss Texas pecan.
Areas of Texas have received very little rainfall recently. As we continue to have warm temperatures, many of us are questioning whether to plant cool season annual forages. To plant or not to plant, that is the question. I'm Dr. Vanessa Olson from Overton.
Have you visited with your congressman during the August recess? Hello, I'm Barry Mahler, and I got to talk to mine about the Farm Bill recently. I have the story in today's report.
We go to the Texas Panhandle, where James Hunt reports farmers there have experienced a major problem with a long-standing nemesis: weeds.
One of the most talked about things this season is the big battle Texas Panhandle farmers have had with weeds. Our heavy spring rains not only helped grow those weeds, but also delayed when farmers could get out into their fields to fight them. Some producers turned to aerial applicators. Those crop dusters can definitely help get out the herbicide, but using a ground rig can deliver more. With future weed battles in mind, here's some observations from Texas A&M AgriLife agronomist Jordan Bell.
With a sprayer, a ground rig, a producer can usually spray, depending on the nozzles and depending on speed and depending on how it's calibrated, about up to 20 gallons per acre. And so if you think about what that means that there's going to be herbicide or the pesticide mixed in 20 gallons of water, and that's what is being applied. Whereas a plane is going to use on average 1 to 3 gallons per acre, so you just don't get as much coverage. And so that can really be very challenging, especially for larger weeds. And so really, if there are severe weed problems, it is best if a producer can use a ground rig just so they can get better coverage on those weeds and really penetrate that weed canopy.
Dr. Bell also says even though more producers are trying to reduce tillage in order to maintain crop residue, sometimes plowing helps.
When these weeds become very hard to control, often tillage, plowing, becomes one of the most effective options, especially where we start to see herbicide resistance become a problem.
Avoiding weed problems requires a lot of strategy, a lot of work, and the cost of buying and applying herbicides. But Dr. Bell says it's worth it.
We want to control weeds because weeds are using resources. They're using water that could be used by the crop. They're using nutrients that would be used by the crop. So even for producers who decide, I'm just going to coexist with these weeds, that does come at a cost. And what we have shown through our herbicide trials is that usually the yield advantage that comes with controlling weeds will cover the cost of those herbicide applications.
That's Texas A&M AgriLife agronomist Jordan Bell. For Farm Bureau Roundup in Amarillo, I'm James Hunt.
Some Texas corn farmers are dealing with full grain bins, silos, and elevators. In Waco, Gary Joyner reports on what Central Texas producers are doing to store their very good corn crop.
You might say it's a regular bin buster. This year's Central Texas corn crop is so large that some farmers are running out of storage. Grain bins and elevators in the area are full. That leaves some farmers storing the crop on the ground. It's not ideal, but it's the best option for some when a crop this size comes out of the field. Farmers can thank early rainfall in the spring for the bumper crop. It set things up perfectly. Corn yields are the best many in the area have seen in a long time. Growers in other parts of the state hope to have similar success. State corn harvest is now just over 50%. The overall condition of the Texas corn crop is much better than a year ago, and the storage situation proves it. Texas corn growers plant more than 2 million acres annually. Harvest can run as late as November in our state. Farmers already finished with harvesting corn now hope for new moisture to arrive this fall. For Farm Bureau Roundup, I'm Gary Joyner in Waco.
When it comes to this year's Texas pecan crop, it has been a challenging summer for growers. In the Cross Timbers and in the Edwards Plateau, pecan trees were drought-stressing and dropping nuts. For a pecan harvest outlook, here is horticulturist John Begnaud, who has more from San Angelo.
Well, pecan crop is maturing. It's going to do it whether we do anything or not, but there are some things that we should be doing to make sure that the quality of the pecans are as good as they can be. Now, for the 2023 crop estimates from the recent Texas Pecan Growers Association and from the Nut Growers Association, puts our overall United States crop at roughly about 320 million. Well, Texas can contribute this year maybe as much as 38 million as an estimate. That's quite a bit, and it's pretty much in line with what it was last year. But typically, those areas that had a really good crop might not have as much this year, and those that didn't have much, like us in San Angelo, are set up with a very good crop. It's been a real challenging summer. When you have temperatures in the hundreds, it's hard to get pecans to do what they're supposed to do. Usually in late June, July, they begin to size, and if it's exceptionally hot, the pecans might be a little bit smaller than normal. It's kind of hard to get enough water into that tree and moving through the tree to grow them the normal size that you would like. So you might expect a little smaller pecan than you normally get. And now, at this time of year, it's critical that we're filling these pecans. With the exception of the early maturing varieties like Pawnee, which, believe it or not, in the next week to 10 days across Texas, you're going to see some of these varieties like Pawnee begin to shuck, split, and ripen, begin to dry, and it won't be long you'll be cracking them and shelling them. So those that are not maturing this fast are in the process of filling the kernels. So if they're short of water right now, then the nuts will be hollow or shriveled or very poor quality. So don't let them be short on water from now all the way until the pecans split their shucks. And another thing, keep water them as long as their leaves are on and green. That helps to produce food that will help to make the crop for next year. This is John Begnaud reporting for Texas Farm Bureau Roundup from San Angelo.
On other fruits, vegetables, and specialty crops, the U.S. Department of Agriculture's latest report for South Texas shows progress for watermelons and cantaloupes, following about 3 inches of rain from recent tropical storm Harold. In the Rio Grande Valley, citrus, sugarcane, and hay meadows continue to be irrigated. With temperatures still very warm and very hot, the idea of planting cool season annual forages may not be a good idea right now. But as Dr. Vanessa Olson explains, producers do not want to delay too long.
Ideally, we would like to plant forages to soil moisture. Summer pastures should be overseeded in October and early November, depending on location. Delaying planting may give us an opportunity to plant to soil moisture, depending on rainfall chances. However, delaying planting too late, such as late November or December, will decrease overall forage production, as well as result in a shorter grazing period. Cool soil temperatures are important for good germination and establishment for small grains and annual ryegrass. Daily minimum temperatures should be below 75 degrees Fahrenheit for good stand establishment. Small grains such as oats, small grain rye, and wheat perform best in specific regions. Most of their forage production is in the fall and early winter. Small grain rye is adapted to a wide variety of soil types and more productive than other small grains. Oats are the least cold tolerant and should be planted in central and southern portions of the state. Wheat is better adapted to colder temperatures and performs well north of I-20. Annual ryegrass, which produces majority of the forage in the spring, can be planted later than other forages. The rainfall needs of ryegrass limits production to portions of the state east of I-35. Also, keep in mind, since we have had dry periods followed by intermittent rainfall, we can see populations of fall armyworms. As you plant winter forages, be prepared to scout for armyworms following any significant rainfall. Scout early in the morning and be prepared to take action that day if you find 3 or more per square foot. Delaying control can lead to a complete loss of any winter forage seedlings. Read labels of pesticide products to make sure you are using the product correctly and safely. This is Dr. Vanessa Olson with Texas A&M AgriLife Extension in Overton for the Texas Farm Bureau Roundup.
Finally today, the congressional August recess allowed constituents to visit with their U.S. senators and representatives in their home districts. Barry Mahler was one of those people who took the time to sit down with his congressman and talk about the various agricultural issues at hand. One of those topics was the writing of the 2023 Farm Bill, with the deadline of September 30th fast approaching. Here's Barry's report.
Well, during the recent August congressional recess, I hope everyone had a chance to visit with your congressman while they were home. I had the opportunity to sit down and talk about the Farm Bill with Congressman Ronnie Jackson of the 13th District recently. Congressman Jackson is a retired Rear Admiral of the Navy and a physician. In fact, he was the doctor of President Obama and President Trump when they were in office. And he told me that when he was elected to Congress in the 13th District, he realized very quickly that he had a lot of expertise, but he needed to learn more about energy and agriculture, as they were the two driving forces in the economy of our area. He's made it a point to have a strong agricultural staff and requested a seat on the House Ag Committee, of which he is now a member. He spent a lot of time with key ag organizations and producers in the district. He explained that the Farm Bill has to be rewritten every 5 years, and their new one is due this fall. And even though they're a little behind in the process, that work is going on to meet that deadline and continued even during the August break. Now, the bill is divided into several titles ranging from conservation, trade, rural development, all the way to nutrition. In fact, the nutrition portion of the bill takes 76% of the funding and has always been on the radar of producers who say it makes the bill look much more expensive than it should be when only a small portion of it goes to support production agriculture. He explains that without the nutrition title in the bill that consists of the SNAP and food stamp programs, it would be impossible to pass the bill, as there are just too few members of Congress from production ag areas of the country anymore. He did bring up an interesting point about the current bill. He said the rate of fraud in the nutrition titles of the bill are estimated to be as high as 12 to 14%, while in the farm support side, only around 2%. Now, because of the size of the nutrition portion, bringing that level of fraud down to, say, 1 or 2% would go a long way toward funding the ag portion of the bill without harming the effectiveness of the program, and it would save tax dollars. He said efforts are being made to do that in the new bill. What a great concept. I kind of think that ought to be applied to all areas of government. Reporting from North Central Texas, I'm Barry Mahler for Farm Bureau Roundup.
That is our program for this week. Thank you very much for joining us. Have a safe and enjoyable Labor Day holiday weekend. Thanks to all the farmers, ranchers, farm and ranch workers, and all involved in agriculture for the work they do every day to provide food, fiber, and fuel to Texas, America, and the world. For everyone at Farm Bureau Roundup, I'm Tom Nicoletti, and this is the Texas Farm Bureau Radio Network.
Neighbor, let's take a shorter look at the grains, courtesy of John Tuggle. We'll call Corpus Milo 1050, Brownsville 1068, yellow corn to Corpus 498.5, Progresso 556, hard red winter wheat to Houston 731.5, and Placido beans 1298, Texas cotton 83.48, average cost, average sale price 22.32 as far as the number of bales. Neighbor, I'm Larry Marble. Thanks for listening. Good day to you.